I'm planning to finish the central bank part of the syllabus and then to discuss about the global monetary institutions, which is also we have to cover. Let's start with the effective management and monitoring of international trade operations of Sri Lanka by Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Now, we all know entire trade operations are governed and managed and monitored by Central Bank of Sri Lanka with various controls, guidelines they are managing. So when we are talking about international trade operations, it's a must that we should know how Central Bank is managing these international trade operations in Sri Lanka. Central Bank of Ceylon, if we talk about the history, Central Bank of Ceylon earlier, it was established by the Monetary Act number 58 of 1949, and it commenced operations in 1950. Then in 1985, it was renamed as the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Earlier it was Ceylon, when we were known as Ceylon, right? So later in 1985, the name was changed and it was renamed as the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The objectives of Central Bank of Sri Lanka, we can classify it under two main headings. The objectives of Sri Lanka, Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The one objective is maintaining economic and price stability. This is what Central Bank is trying their best, level best these days. How to maintain the economic stability as well as the price stability of the country. Now, price stability, economic stability, we all know. But the price stability means it's a situation where there are no wide fluctuations in the general price levels in the economy. That is conducive for sustainable economic growth. But do we have this at the moment? At the moment, we are not having this, because we all have seen there's a massive wide fluctuation in the general price levels in the economy. Everything. Today it's one price, then after 2 days it will be another price, right? Or sometimes the government will impose certain controls, control price and all those things. They are trying to bring it down. It is something like that, right? For example, we know, I don't know how these people are managing these things. One party, because for me, it looks like it's not a collective decisions these people are taking, right? So one party decide on, okay, we have to reduce the price of rice. 95 rupees, 98 rupees, 105 rupees, 100. Keel Samba 125. We put the controls. Then on the other hand, the paddy marketing board has to purchase paddy from the farmers. Right? Now the farmers are saying, no, 50 rupees or 55 rupees is not enough. We need 65 rupees, 70 rupees. Right? So if you are putting that one, then you can't give rice at 95. So this is something due to lack of coordination. And because of that, every day you can see a wide fluctuation, right? So even though this is one of their main objectives, it is up to you to judge whether we have successful or we have failed, right? The other one is maintaining financial system stability. These objectives and whatever the things we are discussing it today, I don't think it will be a difficult area for you, especially when you consider the in today's context, right? What is happening in Sri Lanka? We all know, as bankers, we know better than the others. You can have your own judgment, right? You can, if you want to write, you can write pages. Maintaining financial system stability. The financial system stability means a safe and secure financial system which is able to withstand external and internal shocks. Do we have that? No. That is also failed. We are having so many external and internal shocks because of the instability in our financial system. The attainment of central bank objectives is vital to promote the development of the productive resources of the country. Right? That also comes under maintaining of financial system stability. The core functions of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, we can categorize into two. As I said, one is maintaining economic and price stability. The second one is maintaining financial system stability. And third one is ancillary function to the core functions, right? Side digging in a issuing of currency. Right. Under maintaining economic and price stability, under that we can discuss about conducting monetary policy, conducting exchange rate policy, right? When it comes to exchange rate policy, again, I'm not sure. Time to time, we take different decisions. Few weeks back, what was our dollar Sri Lanka exchange rate? But 2 weeks back, what was the exchange rate? Dollar Sri Lanka rupees.
230.
Now it has come down to 203. Just imagine, I mean, from 230 to 228 is something. It's not a wide fluctuation. Yeah, it's about 20% fluctuations. Can it be happen overnight? Right? වැඩි ඩිස්කස් කරනකොට මොනවද කියවෙද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකෙන්ද මම පාර විතරක් පෙන්නන්නම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ස්ටඩි කරලා ගන්න. මේවා ලේසි. Management of the official international reserves of Sri Lanka. Now we have central bank. They are the people who will manage our foreign reserves, right? Foreign reserves as well as the local reserves, right? Then acting as the economic advisor, banker, and the fiscal agent of the government. That's one of the main jobs of central bank, acting as the economic advisor, banker, and fiscal agent of the government. compilation and dissemination of economic data and statistics. Compilation and dissemination of economic data and statistics. These things are now, of course, all computerized. So every analysis will be coming from the computers. That only thing we have to feed the correct data. Whether we fill the correct data is another issue, right? Fill in the correct data based on what you are getting from the commercial banks, right? So whatever the data the commercial banks are giving, they're compiling and uh, arrive at the economic data of the country. When we are doing the budget and all those things, these figures are very, very important, right? Then maintaining financial system stability. When we talk about maintaining financial system stability, surveillance of financial system stability, licensing, regulation and supervision of financial institutions. The other people, central bank, the other people who will give license to the commercial banks, other financial institutions, everything. Then the other people who will impose regulations, and the other people who will supervise banking supervision department, non-banking supervision department, like that, right? Even banks as well as finance companies, right? Then provision of clearing and settlement facilities to financial institutions through settlement accounts with the central bank. So clearing and settlement facilities, that also we do for financial institution. That will be organized by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Right? Those days, I don't know whether you can remember, good old days, we used to take all the checks what we have received, what we have collected, people have deposited in the morning session, right? And then one clerk, we used to send it, send him to the central bank clearing house. The seventh floor the clearing house. Seventh or eighth floor clearing house. Clearing house ගිහිල්ලා මේ ඔක්කොම ටික අර හම් බෑග් එකක දාගෙන උස්සගෙන ගිහිල්ලා බැංක්ස් වලට බෙදා ගන්නවා. Very primitive. That's how we started banking. Right? Now everything computerized. We are not sending even the checks ටිකත් මේ තියාගෙන ඉන්නවා. Right? Images and all the things have changed. Those days it took 2 days to get a check to get cleared. Now, there are 2 days and other deposit කළොත් හෙට තමයි proceeds එන්නේ. ඉස්සරහත් ඒ වගේම තමයි ගියේ. Agency functions of the central bank. Agency functions of the central bank. Now, agency functions on behalf of the government. They act as agents for certain areas. They maintain, they are the people who will control public debt department. Public debt department. They are the people who will issue treasury bonds, central bank bonds. The famous bond scam was also through the public debt department, right? So public debt management is done by central bank. Foreign exchange management by exchange control department, and central bank is managing the foreign exchange management. Regional development. Central bank has branches, regional branches also. So through those regional branches, they look for the country's regional development. EPF. EPF also handled by central bank. Right? Financial Intelligence Unit, FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, under the regulations of anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism. Under AML and CFT, Financial Intelligence Unit. This was started in 2007. This was started in 2007, and that is also coming under central bank supervision. Then we talk about monetary policy instruments. So what are the monetary policy instruments? The instruments available to achieve these objectives are statutory reserve ratio, SRR, statutory reserve ratio. The proportion of the deposit liabilities that commercial banks are required to keep as a cash deposit with central bank. Right? I think this area you guys must be knowing very well. Right? Day-to-day operations la kali thamai me kata karanna. Every commercial bank is required to keep a cash deposit with central bank. We call it statutory reserve ratio. What are the benefits of statutory reserve ratio? What are the benefits? ළමයි ශබ්ද නෑනේ.
So is it for the banks or the central bank?
Central bank wants to monitor this statutory reserve ratio. So because of that, they will ask the banks to keep a deposit.
Yeah, that is
by
to
doing that,
safeguard the depositors' demand for money.
Yeah, that is one. That is one aspect. Another one.
So it's a monetary policy tool.
Yeah, monetary reporting policy tool, right? So by getting more money as statutory reserves and keeping it with the central bank, another thing we are trying to control.
Liquidity of the country.
Liquidity of the country. Liquidity of the country. Right? If you have excess liquidity and all, I mean, they will increase the statutory deposit reserves, and then central bank will try to attract money, right? So that the money supply in the country will be limited. Right? Good, very good, very good. Can I have your name, Buddha? You gave a good answer. Hello.
I'm Rashan.
Rashan from which bank? Or
Spanish.
which organization?
Spanish.
Spanish bank. Very good. Very good. Others also, I mean, it's a good example. I mean, you have to talk. Then only we can share our views. Commercial banks are required to maintain reserves with the central bank at rates determined by the bank, right? At present, demand, time and savings deposits of commercial bank denominated in rupee terms are subject to SRR, right? So whatever, it depends on our liquidity and our liability deposits, we have to keep a percentage with the central bank, right? Then bank rate. bank rate. Now, that is the rate at which the central bank provides credit to commercial bank. This is the rate at which the central bank provides credit to commercial bank. Why central bank provides credit to commercial bank?
That's the last resort for the bank.
Yes, very good, very good. He's a banker's banker. Central bank is the banker's banker. That's the last resort. If you want to borrow money, interbank you will try to borrow. If not, the last resort is central bank. So central bank will lend to the commercial banks, and they have published their rate. So that gives another indication. That's an indicative rate for the other banks to follow. Right? Then the others also know they can't go beyond that. If they go beyond that, it is much cheaper to go to central bank and get the money. Right? So that is the highest one. We keep a tab on that, and then we can deal with the other commercial banks. These are collateralized any assets which are acceptable to monetary board. Usually a penalty rate which is higher than other market rates and is termed as lender of last resort, LOLR. Lender of last resort rate at which emergency loans are provided to banks. Right? Penalty rate to the then are emergency loans. Right? Back but when you borrow money from central bank, there will be so many controls. Then policy rate, policy interest rate, and open market operations. Policy interest rates and open market operations. Right? At present, the central bank conduct its monetary policy under a system of active OMO. OMO is open market operations. So they conduct their monetary policy under an open market operation policy system. Policy interest rates, main instrument to achieve the intended inflation path. Stand-in deposit facility rate, formerly the repurchase rate, and stand-in lending facility rate, formerly the reverse repurchase rate. Those are stand-in deposit facility rates, right? Under this policy interest rates and open market operations. The open market operations are conducted either to absorb liquidity if there is excess liquidity, or to inject if there is a shortage of liquidity, right? And thereby to maintain the stability in the overnight interest rates. Right? We're going to be a theory which I would explain. Open market operations are conducted through auctions to buy or sell government securities on a permanent or a temporary basis. Bonds, treasury bills, treasury bonds, those are the instruments we can use. Right? They are conducted through primary dealers. Purchase of bonds increase money supply. Sale of bonds decrease money supply. What do you mean by purchase of bonds? It is sale of bonds. Sale of bonds.
Maturity of bonds?
Pardon?
Maturity of funds?
Yeah, security bonds, treasury bonds, मेवा अभी issue करना. When we issue, sometimes they will ask banks to purchase it. Compulsory karna. And then we'll have to purchase. That means we are restricting our money where we can lend to the people, right? We are restricting that also because we are blocking our money with central bank by purchasing treasury bills and treasury bonds, right? And that will decrease the money supply of the economy, right? Then time to time they will say, okay, whatever the bills they have sold, they said, okay, now you can discount and you can. So that means when we surrender the bills, treasury bonds to the central bank, they will give us money. So that means we can lend more to our customers. When we lend more to our customers, then that will increase the money supply of the economy. Quantitative credit restrictions. Quantitative credit restrictions. Depending on the need and circumstances in the economy, the central bank can use foreign exchange operations, quantitative restrictions on credit, ceiling on interest rate, refinance facilities, certain macro-prudential measures such as imposing margin requirements and loan-to-value ratios for the purpose of monetary management. Loan-to-value purpose, the leasing companies in Haryana. One time it was loan-to-value was 50-50. Then they increased it to 70-30, like that, loan-to-value. Right? Then, depending on the needs, time to time, central bank will use these restrictions. Right? Either foreign currency operations, they will say, now at the moment, there are so many things have imposed. Central bank with last 8th of September, the regulation, right? එක රෙගියුලේෂන් එකක්ද ගයිඩ්ලයින් එකක්ද කියලා මොකක්වත් කියන්න බෑ. සර්කියුලර් එකකුත් නෙමෙයි. හැබැයි ගයිඩ්ලයින් එකක් ආවා අපිට කරන්නම වෙනවා. Right? We have to keep 100% cash margin when we open LCs for certain goods. Certain goods quarter, that range will cover about $400, $600. After the 615, the 415, the rate of Matagana. They mixed up because it's a change, But anyway, it has covered a vast range of items. You have to keep 100% cash margin. Is that the only thing they have mentioned? Can somebody add to that 8th of September circular? 100% cash margin.
100% margin requirement.
Yeah, 100% margin requirement. Then what else? Those margins should be in cash.
Non-interest bearing deposits.
Non-interest bearing margin, yes, right.
But the banks cannot lend to build up that margin.
Yes, yes. Banks cannot. You can't borrow from the bank and keep the margin. They have released the restrictions and put those controls. They may controls together. When the bills comes, when the import bill comes,
You can't take that margin to retire the bill.
yes, you can't take the margin to retire the bill. Sure, ne? Huh? In other words, it is like, 200% margin. Okay. The one thing, at the time of opening the LC, you have to block. If you say $100,000 can be. Picture of that, 20 million there. 100,000 into 205 tapi 20 million 20 million roughly. And 20 million you have to block cash. And then that has gone out from your cash flow. When the document comes, you have to settle the bill. You need another 20 million to settle the bill. Then only you can reimburse the money held under margin. Right? So when you open LC for 100,000, you need $200,000 worth of money to retire the bills. Right? I say make a cover, by indirectly, we are trying to control as much as possible. Right? මන්න මුකුත් කියන්නේ ඒකට මොකද ඇත්තටම හොඳයි කියලා හිතන එකලාකට මේ රටේ දැන් තියෙන තත්ත්වයට කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. අපි මිනිස්සු කිව්වට කෑ ගැහුවට ඒක ඇත්තකුත් තියෙනවා. ඒක ඇත්තකුත් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි if you can remember, last week I saw some of the idiots, the politicians, saying the government has imposed 100% tax for the imports. 100% tax. This is not a tax. Yes, I'll take it. Below commerce settle කරන්න ඕනේ. Right? Restriction එක නැතුව ඉතින් බෑ. නැත්තම් if you allow, our people will import any damn thing. That is what has happened now. When they are අපි පොඩ්ඩක් රිලීස් කරලා දුන්නාම අවුරුද්දක බඩු මාස 3න් ඉම්පෝට් කරලා ඉවරයි. අපිට තියන් ඉන්නවා. Ceiling on interest rates. Ceiling on interest rate. එකත් අපි දානවා. Right? Then refinance facilities. Certain macroprudential measures such as imposing margin requirements and loan to value ratios. Right? Then we discuss about balance of payment and external sector performance. Balance of payment and external sector performance. The external sector reflects an economy's interaction with the global economy, which includes merchandise and service trade, capital and financial transactions. Right? For example, foreign loans and investments. Being a small open economy where domestic demand is insufficient for maintain high economic growth, external demand is important for Sri Lanka. Right? External demand is very important to Sri Lanka. External sector statistics, transactions of residents with the rest of the world are systematically recorded in a framework that groups them into accounts. Transactions of residents with the rest of the world are systematically recorded in a framework that groups them into accounts. Each account represents a separate economic process or phenomenon of the external sector. Right? For basic external accounts, as such, is one is balance of payment, then international investment positions, stocks, international reserves, and external debts. At the moment, in Sri Lanka, external debts also made a fairly big issue. Not fairly, it's a big issue. Right? Okay. The balance of payment measures all international economic transactions. Balance of payment measures all international economic transactions between residents and foreign residents. Right? Monetary and fiscal policy must take the BOP into account at the national level. Balance of payment it's a combination of so many factors, right? Monetary and fiscal policy must take the BOP into account at the national level. Balance of payment of a country is very, very important. And in a country like Sri Lanka, we are facing a balance of payment deficit and very negative side of the balance of payment operations. Right? BOP data may be important. Indicates pressure on exchange rate. Right? Then may signal imposition, removal of controls over payment, dividends, and interest. Help to forecast countries' market potential. Okay? So all these things is a combination of this balance of payment data. Balance of payment statistics. A balance of payment is a statement that summarizes economic transaction between residents and non-residents during a specific time period. Right? So, therefore, the balance of payment is a flow statement during a specific time period from 1st January to 31st December. Right? So, therefore, BOP is a flow statement and not a stock statement. BOP is compiled on quarterly and annual basis by the central bank, and they publish time to time. They publish quarterly balance of payment statistics. Right? It is very, very important. So most of our policy decisions will be taken on our balance of payment situations. Right? Sri Lanka complies the balance of payment using IMF's balance of payment manual 6th edition. Right? From 2012 onwards. අපි control කරනකොට අපි monitor කරන්නේ we also follow balance of payment IMF's balance of payment manual 6th edition. ඒකට තමයි මේක අපි balance of payment එක run කරන්නේ. Right? Internal balance, maintaining a full employment and price stability in the domestic economy while achieving economic growth. External balance is maintaining a strong BOP position without prolonged deficit in the current account and maintaining an exchange rate without excessive volatility. Okay. Major components of balance of payment. Major components of balance of payment. Uganda Pramata may brief questions and 2 marks, 3 marks. What are the major components of balance of payment? Right? One is current account, capital account, right? So that means current and capital account balances, financial account, and errors and omissions. Because of errors and omissions, that is also make a big effect on the balance of payment of a country. First three now, okay. What do you mean by errors and omissions? Why errors and omission is a major component of balance of payment? When we are doing the final balance of payment statistics, and if you make any errors or if you make any omissions, and once you identified it and when you include it, then the whole picture will get changed, might get changed. If it is a substantial amount, it might get changed, right? So therefore, errors and omissions also plays a major role as a major component of balance of payment. Can you go through this slide carefully and try to understand the current and capital accounts? Take about 5 minutes. When it comes to trade account means goods exports and goods import. Take it to your head. And what is service account? What is primary income account? What is secondary income account? Then the trade account balance, current account balance, capital account, current and capital account balance. Just try to understand that. Read it carefully. 5 minutes. Okay. When we talk about the trade accounts, trade account means goods exports and goods imports. balance of payment එක අස්සේ තමයි ඔක්කොම තියෙන්නේ. For international trade, guys, this is the most important thing. Trade account. What do you think about the trade account balance in Sri Lanka? Is it a minus figure or a plus figure?
Minus.
Minus. When was it last shown as a plus figure?
Yes.
In
1977.
1970s?
1977? In early and middle 1950s. ඊට පස්සේ හැමදාම නෙගටිව්ම තමයි. Right? Service accounts. Transport, tourism, information, technology, telecommunication, financial services, and other business services. Right? So, services accounts. Primary income account, interest, dividends, reinvested earnings. Secondary income accounts, private transfers. Private transfers can worker remittances. Worker remittances is very, very important. And government transfers. Just go through it and see. Because of the COVID pandemic situation, which is prevailing for the last 1.5 years or 2 years. 20 වල නේද පටන් ගත්තා මේ කොවිඩ් එක නෑ 20 වල නේ 2020 වල ඒප්‍රිල් වලනේ දැන් නම් බලන්න බැලුවාම just imagine what has happened to our economy. Service account, the transport come to standstill. At a loss. Tourism, zero. IT, telecommunication, then private transfers, worker remittances, namatila. Income again. So trade account balance is goods exports minus goods import. Current account balance means sum of the current account transaction. Plus minus ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಿಮೇಲಿ total account. Capital account is capital transfers. Current and capital account balance is current account balance plus capital account balance. I have given a very simple example. Calculation of current and capital account balances. I don't have to explain this to you, but you can understand. Goods export is lesser than goods import. Ultimately, current and capital account balance is minus $1,200 US millions. millions. මේ calculation එක ගන්න බලන්න පුළුවන්. Major components of the financial account is a direct investments, equity and investment of fund transfer, fund shares, debt instruments, then portfolio investments, equity and investment fund shares, debt instruments, financial derivatives, other investments, currency and deposits, loans, blah, blah, blah. Those are the major components of financial accounts. Recent developments in balance of payment that also I have given from 2015 to 2018, right? We have seen from 2015, 16, 17, 18, imports gradual increase. Exports income maker. 2017, 2018, it has gone up to from 2016, 10,310, 11,890. Can somebody give some explanation to this, how it has gone up?
Due to the exchange rate?
Yeah, excellent, Putha. This is mainly due to the exchange rates. Nothing else. දැන් බලුවනම් අපේ එක්ස්පෝර්ට් නැගලා ඇති නිකන් හදට නේද? අපි මේක ආටිෆිෂල් මේකක් එන්නේ අපේ එක්ස්චේන්ජ් රේට් එකට එන්නේ. ඒක මට මතකයි 2017 2018 වලදී මිස්ටර් රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මීටින් වලදී කියනවා. දැන් අපේ මිනිස්සු කොච්චර පොඩද කියනවා. මේ ෆිගර් එක මට ඒ දවස්වල මම මේ ක්ලාස් එකකට මේක යූස් කරනකොට මට ජොසු මානවික කලින් තමයි මේ මහුස්සයා කිව්වේ ඕක. මම බලන් හිටියා ටීවී එකේ. දැන් අපේ අපනෑන ආදායම අපි බාර ගන්නකොට 10.5 million ඒ ගානක් තිබුණ එක US dollars 10,546 million තිබුණ එක අපි දැන් 11.89 වලට නගලා තියෙනවා. මිනිස්සු ගහනවා විසිල් ගහනවා ස්ටේජ් එකේ ගාව ඉන්නේ අපිට ගහනවා ඔක්කොම ගහනවා. හේතුව දන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට අපි මේකද බලන්න ඕනේ මොකද්ද? අපේ trade balance එක. That's the most important thing. ඒව හංගනවා. ඒව මිනිස්සුන්ගෙන් හංගනවා. මිනිස්සුන්ගෙන් හංගලා ඒව කියන්නේ. මේ 18 million තිබුණ imports නැගෙනවා 22 වලට. එතකොට about 25% increase එකක්. right? 4,000 ගණක් යනවනේ. ඒක ඒ ගන්නට එනවා 20% විතර එනවා ඉන්ක්‍රීස් එක. මෙතන එක්ස්පෝර්ට්ස් ගැන කතා කරන්න පොඩ්ඩක්.
ඒ ඉම්පෝර්ට් වලට මේ ඩොලර් රේට් එක නෙවෙයිද මේ ඉෆෙක්ට් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ?
කොයි එක ඉම්පෝර්ට්ස් වලද?
ඔව් සර්.
ඉම්පෝර්ට්ස් වලට ඩොලර් රේට් එක වෙනවා. දැන් අපේ ඉම්පෝර්ට්ස් වැඩි වුණා. ඉම්පෝර්ට්ස් වැඩි වුණා. ඒක දෙකටම නලිෆයි වෙලා යනවනේ. Import exports දෙකටම. Just see the volume which has gone up. Volume හින්දානේ යන්නේ. නැත්තම් ඉතින් අර 18 දැන් 11,890 ඉඳන් 10,545 කියන්නේ කොච්චරද? කල්ලේ කරන් බලුවේ 11,890 minus 10,546 that is 1344 divided by 1 12% වලින් අපි වැඩිලා තියෙන්නේ. 12% වලින් අපි වැඩිලා තියෙන්නේ. exports. නරක කොච්චර වැඩිලා තියෙනවද? imports. ඊට වඩා ගොඩක් වැඩි. ඒක ඊට වඩා ගොඩක් වැඩි. Right? Okay. Then මේක ඔයගොල්ලෝ හිමින්සරේ ගෙදරදී හිමින්සරේ බලලා try to get some idea. මම මේක දීලා තියෙන්නේ පාඩම් කරන්න නෙමෙයි. For you to get some idea, right? Recent developments in balance of payment, right? Financial overall balance එකට කොහොමද වෙන්නේ? Right? Overall balance equals to change in net international reserves or මේ ටික බලන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ. Foreign investments, a person or an institution in a country buying financial assets, establishing new organizations, buying shares in existing organizations are included in the foreign investments. When the foreigners comes, that's how they do, right? They establish new organizations, new companies. They buy shares in existing organizations, right? The long term is a foreign direct investment. Treasury bonds and investments in sovereign bonds. Short term investment in stock exchange and investment in treasury bills. The treasury bills, what is the difference between the treasury bills and the sovereign bonds? What is the difference between the treasury bills and the treasury bonds or sovereign bonds? Sovereign bonds are long term, but treasury bills are short term. Yeah, at any moment, yeah, you can recover the money, right? You can recover that. Even we used to buy treasury bills now. I remember sometimes when the bank rates are low, sometimes the treasury bills rates are much better than the normal banks fixed deposit accounts. 3 months, 6 months rate eකට වැඩිය treasury bill rate එක හොඳයි. එතකොට people will tend to invest money in treasury bills, right? Economic importance of foreign investments, development in infrastructure facilities, financing sources of the current account deficit, technology transfer, and non-debt creating capital flows. Non-debt creating capital flows. Capital flows අපිට එනවා. හැබැයි ණය අරගෙන නෙමෙයි, ණයට නෙමෙයි. Because of the investment. Right? Therefore, investments are very, very important. මේ ටිකත් කියලා බලන්න. Right. I'm at 10 now. CBSL presents the balance of payment in 2 parts. Right? The part 1 is a current account. Part 1 is a current account. Now we have studied in depth there. Now I'm just telling you as an overview. Now, current account can be divided into 3 sections. Current account can be divided into 3 sections. That is, ඒක වැඩිය හොඳයි ඔයගන්ට අදගන්නකො නිකන් chart එකක් වගේ මාත් එක්ක කතා කරන ගමන් chart එකක් වගේ අදගන්න. දැන් මට බෝඩ් එකේ අඳින්න බෑනේ. Balance of payment දැම්මා. ඊගවට ඒක it will segregate into 2 parts. One is the current account, the other one is capital account, right? ඒ දෙක දාලා under current account අර මේ chart එකක් අඳින්න ඕනේ. අර අපි බැංක් එකේ structure එකේ chart එක අඳින්නේ අන්න ඒ වගේ. පල්ලෙහාට. The current account can be divided into 3 sections. One is merchandise. Merchandise is receipts and payment arising from the export and import of goods. Right? Receipts and payment arising from exports and import. From exports, we are receiving the money. Imports, we have to pay money. Right? And these are visible trade. We call it visible trade, tangible. We call it tangible or visible trade because these goods we can see. These goods we can see. We can touch it. It's a tangible or visible items. So visible trade. The net of the receipt and payment for merchandise is called balance of trade. The net of the receipts and payment for merchandise is called the balance of trade. Right? Then services. I said current account can be divided into 3 sections. One is merchandise. Second one is services. The services is receipts and payments arising from services. Receipts and payment arising from services. Right? So that there is invisible items. Invisible items, which are referred to as invisible trade. Okay. Then services are paying nanny, invisible items. Transfers. Receipt and payments arising from transfers, that is inward and outward transfer of money. This includes both private and official transfers. Private transfers can worker remittances and all. Comes under these transfers. Right? දැන් ඒවත් ඔක්කොම දැන් අපිට දැන් අඩු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. Part 2 is the capital account. Capital account, receipts and payment resulting from the movement of capital, monetary and non-monetary capital. For example, investments and short-term and long-term capital, which includes both government and private items. Right? There are the large infrastructure projects and all. එවට එන්නේ capital account වලට එන්නේ. Road development, මේ දවස්වල central highway, වගේ දේවල්. Balance of trade. Balance of trade. This is the more important one to trade, guys. If a country has exported more merchandise than it has imported, then the balance of trade is said to be favorable or in surplus. In 1953, our balance of trade was a very positive one. That was because of the Korean War. In 1952-53, Korean War. Because of the Korean War, North Korea, South Korea, the Korean War, we had to, those people wanted to buy our rubber. There was a very, very good demand for our rubber. So rubber prices skyrocketed. And because of that, we got very good foreign exchange income. You know what we did? From all that money, what we received from exporting rubber because of the Korean War, we utilized those money to import all these perishable fruits like apples, grapes, oranges, all these things, they're important. Market payment විකුණනවා. මට මතකම නෑ. හැබැයි මට මතකයි මට චූටි කාලේ එච්චරම චූටි කාලේ මට මතක නෑ. හැබැයි මට මගේ අම්මලා තාත්තලා කියනවා අපිත් එක්ක පොඩ්ඩක් අවුරුදු දෙකක් තුනක් ගියාට පස්සේ කියනවා අනේ දැන් ඕගලන්ට කන්න දෙන්නවත් විදියක් නෑනේ. In my family, myself, my sister and my brother. The youngest is my brother. The brother ඉපදෙන කාලේ වෙනකොට අම්මලට අර මට කන්න දීපුවා දෙන්න බෑ. ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඒක ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ parents ගෙන් අහලා බලන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ they will also tell the same thing. Right? Payments වල අපි දාලා Apple දොඩම් ඔහෙ තිබුණා. දැනුත් ඉතින් අපි ගෙනල්ලා දාලා තියෙනවා. එළියට ගිහලා බලන්න දුකයි. ඉතින් අපි we are talking about all nonsense, and when you go out you can see how many fruit stalls මේ පොඩි fruit stalls එක ලෝරි වල මිනිස්සු විකුණනවා. ඇපල් දොඩම් මොනවටද? ලංකාවේ මෙච්චර පළතුරු තියෙද්දි we are spending our money. I saw one of the opposition politician, but I so-called අපේ කියනවා ලොකුට මේ මොලේ තියෙන මේ doctorate තියෙන මිනිස්සු කියලා. කියනවා now your children won't be able to eat apples, oranges, grapes, because there will be a restriction. You have to keep margin. Those are not the thing, but only thing is government people, if they are misusing these things, the expected results we won't be getting. That is the unfortunate thing. Otherwise, I personally like certain restrictions at this moment, because we have to survive. We have to survive. If we have to survive, then වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ඒ survive වෙන්නේ restrictions අපිටම විතරයි. අනිත් ඒවට නෑ. Right? ඒවා කතා කරන්න ගියොත් දැන් ඕ ළමයින්ට දැන් හිතන්න කාලේ ඇවිල්ලා ඕවා දිහා බලලා. On the other hand, if a country has imported more merchandise than it has exported, the balance of trade is said to be adverse or deficit. However, the above is not a critical indicator, since services and transfers could change the final result or surplus or adverse balance on the current account, right? But current account balance may effectively not only the what do you call this import and exports, right? There are other factors also, like services and transfers. ඒ දෙක හුඟක් වෙලාට අපිට තිබුණු ප්ලස් වලට අන්න ට්‍රේඩ් බැලන්ස් එක අඩු වෙනවා. ට්‍රේඩ් ඩෙෆිසිට් එක අඩු කරගන්න අපිට පුළුවන්. Methods of rectifying a deficit in the current account and then in the capital account, right? Export incentives and import controls. This is one of the tools we can use, and the central bank has recommended, right? That is export incentives and import Control. Export incentives means to encourage people, we can give a lot of incentives. Right? Can you remember? How can I ask you to whether you can remember? But the next one, 1960s, right? 1970 වලදී 1970 වලදී ආවේ කාගේ ගවර්න්මන්ට් එකද? මතකද?
Mrs. Bandaranaike.
Yeah, Mrs. Bandaranaike. Anybody knows who was the finance minister under Mrs. Bandaranaike's regime?
Mr. N.M.
Yes. Dr. N.M. Dr. N.M.
Doctor.
Yeah, Dr. N.M. was supposed to be one of the very knowledgeable and educated guy. He has a master's degree, a doctorate in economics from London University. So when he became this finance minister, I can remember those days I was also working in the bank. That was my first year in banking, 1973, right? He introduced a thing called FEECS. 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 Foreign exchange earnings account කියලා අපි තිබුණේ. හැබැයි C1ට ආවේ මොකක්ද කියලා මට මතක නැහැ. FEE නම් foreign exchange earnings account කියලා තමයි තිබුණේ. FEECS account කියලා අපි කියන්නේ. FEECS account. When we export certain items from the proceeds, right? From the proceeds, we can the exporters can open a foreign currency accounts. It also foreign currency accounts. He's the one who started all these items, right? Foreign currency account foreign currencies proceeds. Foreign currencies when he is importing, so he can utilize those money in foreign currency to set off the bills. See, there's no exchange fluctuations. Differences customer or if he wants to send that money abroad, or if he wants to send one of their children for higher studies, they can utilize this money, like our NRC at the moment, right? Like NRC at the moment. So he introduced that FEECS. අපිට මට මතකයි අපිට හරි වදයක් ඔක දෙක. FEECS accounts වෙනම maintain කරන්න ඕන. Central Bank එකෙන් වෙනම එනවා FEECS accounts audit කරන්න. Right? Then like that we can give export incentives. Now recently till recent the people, the exporters can they have allowed to keep their foreign earnings in foreign currency accounts. Then දාලා තියෙන rule එක මොකද්ද? Few months back only this came. ඒක මොකක්ද දැන්නේ? Out of that foreign currency earnings, 25% has to be converted to, it's a mandatory, 25% has to be converted to rupees. දාලා මේ රුපී මාකට් එක flood කරලා දාගන්න ඕන. අපේ රුපි මාකට් ඉෂුස් තියෙන හින්දා ඒක කම්පල්සරි කළා. එහෙම කළාම is it an incentive to the exporters or not? Is it an incentive to the exporters or not? Hello?
No.
No, it is not an incentive to the exporters because I can remember as bankers you may have experienced this. Case exporters were complaining. They don't want to do this. They are complaining. Because here compulsory they are converting the money 25% into rupees, right? Otherwise they can set it off. The imports take a set off කරන්න හද පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඔය වගේ මෝඩ ඒව දානවා. දාලා ඉවරලා අපි කොහොමද ඒතර එක්ස්පෝර්ටර්ස් ලව එන්කරේජ් කරන්නේ? right? import controls when දාලා තියෙනවා දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ මම කියන්නේ නැහැ. right? ඒ වගේ ඒව දාන්න වෙනවා. ගවර්න්මන්ට් එකට බැලුම් අහන්න උනාට ගණන් ගන්න හොඳ නැහැ. හරි දේ කරන්න ඕන. බැර වගේ මොඩ වැඩ කරන්න නැතුව. Methods of import controls by imposing higher tariff or duties, restricting certain commodities. This is what had happened now. Methods of incentives to the exporters, reduction of taxes, favorable terms of credit for the exporters, right? In the monetary measures, interest rate adjustments, any upward movements of the interest rate will stimulate savings. Also curtail the lending for consumption. Then මේකත් අපිට මේකන ප්ලෑන් කරලා දැන් අපි පහුගිය කාලේ අපේ savings rate එක fixed deposit rates හොඳටම අඩුයි. 3.5 4.5 තමයි FD rate එක තිබුණේ 1 year 4.5. Now it has gone up by about 25 pips 50 pips වගේ පොඩ්ඩක් දශම 5කින් විතර ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. If you increase a few years back, that's also I can still remember. FD rate was 1 year FD rate was 18% to 20, between 18 to 20. 18 to 20. Then අපි ඔක්කොම FDs වල දැම්මා. දාලා එතකොට cash flow එක අපේ අඩු වෙනවා. Cash flow එක අඩු වෙනවා විතර නෙමෙයි lending වලට is curtail the lending for consumption. So people try to save the money. Then people don't want to save money because interest rates are low. There's no point. So they spend the money on consumption items. Right? The open market operations. This is the deliberate selling or buying of treasury bills in the market by the government, right? Special deposits. Government request commercial banks to place special deposits with CBSL, with or without interest. With or without interest. This will reduce the capacity of commercial banks to create money. Right? Fiscal measures. Fiscal measures are carried out independent to the commercial banks and are more involved in government policies. Fiscal measures of government policies. Methods of fiscal policies are budgetary methods. Budgetary methods means through annual budget proposal, time to time, either we impose taxes, we raise taxes, or we give tax exemptions to the people, right? So whatever the thing will be done through the budget, right? through annual budget proposals. September, October, November අපේ ගාව බජට් එක එනවා. බලමු මොනවද තියෙන්නේ කියලා. Right? Devaluation. Overvalue of the currency in terms of other currencies. Exporters will get more LKR for their exports, whereas importers have to pay more LKR for their imports. This is also happening now. Right? Since I'm not involved in banks at the moment, Roshan, can you tell me with your knowledge, right? with your knowledge, Roshan or anybody else, it's open discussion. Right? Last few months, we know our rates have gone up to 228, 230, 232, 35 at a year. Unofficial year. During those period, what was the buying rate for exporters? What was the buying
It was
rate?
219. 219.
219 against 230.
30, yeah.
Now just imagine what 2 weeks back we learned foreign exchange, no? Forex. අපි කළා නේද forex? අපි කළාද?
ඔව් සර්.
ඔව් කළා මම මේ දාපෝ මම ලිපි මේ කොලේ බලාගත්ත මේ ළමයි කතා කරන්න ඉතින්ද මම කරලා නැද්ද කියලා. forex for trade මම කරලා තියෙනවා. අවද්ද මේ 6-9 සෙප්තැම්බර් 5 වෙනිදා කරලා තියෙනවා. එතෙන්දී අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තා from the middle rate we keep a margin, middle rate minus a margin, we arrived at the buying rate. Then we add another margin, equal margin to the middle rate so that we will arrive selling rate. මතක නේද? middle rate එකෙන් වමට ගියා අඩු වුණා, දකුණට ගියා වැඩි වුණා. මේකම range එක. The difference between the middle rate and the selling rate is normally 3 rupees විතර තමයි හිටින්නේ. දැන් මෙතන පොඩ්ඩක් බලන්න. 11 rupees. So did the exporters got the benefit? 11 rupees deficit එකක් කියන්නේ. selling rate එකයි මේක අතර බර ගන්න. Right? Did the exporters got the benefit? No. So they were getting only 290. දැන් මේක 203 වලට ගත්තට පස්සේ මොකද උනේ? දැන් මේගොල්ලෝ ගියා buying 201, selling 205. ඔය ගන්නට අපි දාලා යනවා. ඒක තමයි සාමාන්‍ය වෙන්න ඕනේ. 2 rupees 150 2 rupees තමයි අපි margin එක තියන්නේ. spread එක යනවා 3 rupees 4 rupees maximum. Yeah. The exporters didn't get the benefit. Income policy. The aim of income policy is to contain all forms of income so that they do not rise more than the output of goods and services. Income policy එක මේ ලංකාවේ එහෙම කරන්නේ නැහැ. මේක අපි දැම්මට මම දැකලා නැහැ. මොකද මේක income policy ගියොත් එහෙම කොවිඩ් පැත්තකින් තියලා මිනිස්සු මහ පාරේ. අපේ අයියලා ටික ඔක්කොම බහිනවා පාරට. පඩි වැඩි කරන්නේ නැහැ. මීටර පඩි දෙන්නත් බෑ. දැන්ට ලක්ෂ එකමාරක් පඩි ගන්න මිනිසුන්ගේ පඩි ඔක්කොම with immediate effect අඩු කරනවා ලක්ෂයකට ලක්ෂ තමයි සීලින් එක කොහොමද ආසද ඒ වගේ දෙයක් වෙන්නේ right income policies අපි කරන්නේ මේක බජට් එකකින් තමයි කරන්න පුළුවන් කරන්නේ අර මේකට දැම්ම නේද දැන් ඒකට මොකද උනේ මේ බන්දුල ගුණාදන කිව්වේ everybody who is earning more than 100,000 to pay 5,000 නේද 5,000 COVID tax එකක් ගන්නවා කියලා COVID tax එකක් ගන්නවා කියලා income earners of over 100,000 rupees right ඊට වඩා හොඳයි මේ දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ කී ගොඩක් කට්ටියදී මේ over 100,000 ගන්න කට්ටිය උතන මේ ක්ලාස් එකේ right හැබැයි ඊට වඩා හොඳ නැද්ද ඒක percentage එකට ගත්තා නම් flat rate එකක් ගන්නද ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ DGM ලා ලොකු කට්ටිය ලක්ෂ 6 7 8යි ගන්නනේ ඒ මිනිහට 5ක් කියන්නේ ගානක් නැහැ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට 5ක් කියන්නේ ලොකු ගානක් percentage එක ගත්තා නම් මොකද වෙන්නේ 2% like that මේක කෙලින්ම ෆ්ලැට් දැම්ම ඒකිනුත් පාර වදින්නේ සාමාන්‍ය මිනිහටම තමයි right okay interest rates increased deposit rates will result in the inward movement of short-term capital then this will also reduce the value of domestic currency against foreign currency right regulatory methods regulations in the outward movement of capital will result in rectifying a deficit in the balance of payment of a country regulations in the outward movements of capital इतने तभी regulatory methods दाना investment incentives the offer of incentives for investors another way to overcome a deficit in the balance of payment because we are encouraging people to come and invest in this country we are giving so many incentives tax holidays and the people will come right this is also another tool to overcome the deficit in the balance of payment right okay I think what we have discussed is more than enough to cover the cover how central bank operates how central bank operates and monitor and control the foreign exchange and international trade operations in a country right any questions any questions any questions right 10:05 shall we take a small break උදේ පාන්දරනේ පටන් ගත්තේ තමයි උදේට තේ බිල නැද්ද දන්නේ sharp 10:15 10 minutes we'll take a 10 minutes break and then start the other session right the second part I want to discuss is international financial institutions in global and global monetary systems. So when we are involved in international operations, we have to have certain awareness, right? Forget about the in-depth knowledge, certain awareness on the international financial institutions. Now we talk about the central bank. No, central bank is a local financial institution that helps the trade finance operations. Now we are going to discuss about the international financial institutions and how they are supporting the global monetary systems and especially international trade operations. Now, we all know the Second World War. Second World War was ended in which year? Can somebody answer? Okay. මොන අවුරුද්දද දෙවෙනි ලෝක යුද්ධය?
1945.
Yes, 1945. In 1945, once the World War was over, because then Americans put atomic bomb to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then the war came to an end, right? Because Japanese surrendered, then Hitler also got caught. War was ended. But all the countries who got involved in the war, as well as other countries who were just either supporting or not supporting, like countries like Ceylon, those days it was Ceylon, and everybody went through a very tight economic crisis, and everybody wanted to, they were fighting with each other, they were competing with each other to get more money to their own countries. Okay, more money to their own countries. For example, to get more money to their countries, since we have just finished central bank operations, now tell me, in international trade, if you have to get more money, more foreign exchange, what should be the tool? Simple tool. If you want to increase our balance of trade.
Exports.
Increase the
Increase exports and
Do more exports.
and decrease the import.
Import.
Decrease the import. Right? Increase the exports and decrease the imports. That's a simple formula. Right? And on top of that, to discourage imports to a country for their exports, they were trying, they were giving all the incentives to the exporters. These big countries like UK, Germany, France, Belgium, then even countries like Italy and all, right? USA, everybody were giving the incentives to the exporters, and they want to discourage and restrict imports to their own countries. And for that, they started imposing huge taxes on the imports, right? To impose huge taxes on the imports. Duty වැඩි කරාම මොකද වෙන්නේ? Indirectly, the imports will get reduced. That's a simple theory. Then this was happening. Now, for example, if America wants to utilize that theory, they were trying to export all their products outside. But when they are importing goods from UK and France and other countries, right, they are increasing the taxes. Then Arab make goods, America will export goods, other countries, they will impose taxes. This was a huge battle, right? Everybody realized there's no point of fighting with each other. We have to have a compromise. So because of that only, the general agreement on trade, tariff and trade or otherwise we call it GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, was set up in 1948, right? So mainly to initiate to standardize import tariff and technical standard requirements with the view to encourage economic growth through the world trade and to have a standardized import tariff. Every country to have, okay, when you are importing these particular items, all countries will charge a standardized rate, right? එතකොට මේ ෆයිට් එකක් නැහැනේ, right? and ඒ වගේ මේකක් කරගන්න තමයි GATT was set up in 1948, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, right? And GATT was every 5 years, 6 years, time to time, they were having these discussions and reviewing their situations, their charges, their taxes, common new things. They were reviewing the thing, right? And those discussions we call rounds, right? Several rounds, Tokyo round, Kennedy round, ඒ වගේ අපි rounds ගොඩක් ගිහලා අන්තිමටම the last round was Uruguay round. That started in 1986 and was successfully completed in 1995. The මේ කාලේ වෙනකොට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට අපිට ඔක්කොටම දැන් ඉන්න සමහර කට්ටියටත් මතක ඇති, මට නම් හොඳටම මතකයි. අපිට අපි මේ ට්‍රේඩ් එකේ දැන් මේ කරගෙන ඉන්න බැහැගෙන ඉන්න කාලේ 1986 to 1995 කියන්නේ, right? So by that time we all know, we can't tell you, even I can't tell you anything about what had happened in 1948, but 1986, 1995, those are our era, right? Then all this international trade was, the platform was more sophisticated platform, computerized, everything. ඊට පස්සේ දැන් උන්න trade agreements, then the taxes, import duties, all standardized country to country. And most of the countries, almost all the countries, the member countries, they had a similar tax systems, right? So during this discussion, Uruguay round, the GATT decided there's no point of having the GATT anymore. Now the world or even the countries doesn't have any common this thing, and we have to allow countries to perform their own. We should not control, right? So then everybody agreed, and in 1995, GATT was abolished. 1995, GATT was abolished. General Trade on Tariff and Trade, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, GATT was abolished. And a new organization was born, that is WTO, World Trade Organization, right? GATT මැරිලා වැළලුවට පස්සේ ඒ වලෙන් පැන නැගිච්ච එක තමයි WTO, World Trade Organization, right? The history of the GATT, if you just mention, right? In 1950, the US administration abandons efforts to seek congressional support for the International Trade Organization, right? 1949-56, first 4 rounds of tariff negotiations. Then 1957, under GATT තමයි මේ ඔක්කොම උනේ, right? And very important things happened. These are milestones. 1957, creation of EEC. What is EEC? Very powerful organization even today. What is EEC? European Economic Commission. European Economic Commission. Regular තමයි මේ අපිට බගට් දාන අපේ ඉන්නේ ලොකුම හතුරු ටික. එහෙමම කියන්න වෙනවා. නේද? අපිට ඔලුව උස්සන්නම දෙන්නේ නැති organization තමයි ඒවා EEC. right? අන්න දැන් දැක්කනේ ඊයේ last week ඔයගොල්ලෝ මන් දන්නේ ඒ TV බලනවා නම් නිවුස් බලනවා නම් මම හැමදාම කියන්නේ ඒකයි. ඒක තිබුණා EEC එක කියලා තුන අපිට මේ අපේ මේ human rights issues හින්දා අපේ මෝඩයන්ගේ වැඩ හින්දා මේ they are going to impose restrictions on GSP plus. GSP plus නැවතුනොත් එහෙම අපිට මේ තියෙන වෙලාව හැටියට ගහින් වෙටිච්ච මිනිහට ගොනා යනවා වගේ වැඩක් වෙනවා. තියෙනව මදිවට. අපිට අපේ එක්ස්පෝර්ට්ස් අපිට අරගන්න බැරි වෙනවා. අපිට කම්පිටිෂන් වැඩි වෙනවා. right? මම ඒක කරන්නම් GSP and GSP plus දවසක් ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක interesting but you have to know. As bankers you have to know. Right? Then 1962 derogations to the GATT rules in the areas of cotton and fiber were negotiated. Multi-fiber agreements are 1964-67 Kennedy round are important. That was the creation of another important organization attached to United Nations. That is UNCTAD. අහලා තියෙනව නේද UNCTAD එක? UNCTAD එක අය අපිට ලොකු මේක දෙන UNCTAD was created to press for trade measures to favor the developing countries. So actually UNCTAD has given us a big boost. Countries like us, developing countries. And another way UNCTAD is important to us is, I think if I am correct, I think I am correct, right? So far in our Sri Lanka history, the only Secretary General of a organization of this caliber, United Nations organization, was we were lucky to have the Secretary General of UNCTAD. I think that is in 1970s over there. How are we?
Dr. Gamini Korea.
Dr. Gamini Korea. Very good. Dr. Gamini Korea. Dr. Gamini Korea was the Secretary General of UNCTAD. That was a very proud thing for Sri Lankans. Dr. Gamini Korea කාගේ කවුද කියලා දන්නවද?
Lalit Kotalala Kasim.
Uncle. Uncle or cousin? Yes. Lalit Kotalala's cousin. Yes, you are correct. Lalit Kotalala's cousin. Right? අනේ අන්තිමට මේ mental case එකක් කියලා තමයි මරුනේ. මේ psycho case එකක් කියලා. Dementia ඔක්කොම වෙලා. Right. In 1973 to 79, that was a Tokyo round. Right? So multi-fiber agreement negotiated in 1974 to restrict export growth and extended several times thereafter. Then 1986-94, Uruguay round of negotiations. Right? Then April 15th, 1994, the Marrakesh Protocol signed establishing the creation of the World Trade Organization. Right? The diminishing of the GATT and the creating of World Trade Organization. Right. මේ තියන්නේ අර මේ ගාට් ඩවුන්ස් ටික මම නිකන් දීලා තියෙන එක එච්චර උගන්ට ඉම්පෝටන්ට් නෑ. Multilateralism. When GATT became a WTO, World Trade Organization, till then we were having bilateral agreement, trade agreements. Bilateral means agreements between two countries. The WTO, they are the people who encourage multilateralism or multilateral trade agreements in the trade finance market. Multilateralism means agreements among many countries, more than one country, right? Coordination mechanism for achieving the mutually beneficial trade outcomes. Can you tell me about one or two bilateral trade agreements Sri Lanka is having?
Lanka.
Pardon? India. I didn't get it correctly. India, Sri Lanka.
Lanka.
Yeah, Lanka. Yes, correct. Correct. Huh?
Singapore.
And Singapore. ASS. Singapore තමයි ළඟදිම ආවේ. ඊට කලින් China, Sri Lanka, right? China, Sri Lanka නම් තිබුණ රබර් සහල් ගිවිසුමක් කියලා. Yeah, even Pakistan. Yes. Then multilateral. One example or two examples.
SAFTA is the multilateral.
Yeah, SAFTA, and then SAARC country. Huh? BIMSTEC අපිට එනවද? BIMSTEC උත් එනවා. BIMSTEC, right? Right. Okay. Now you got the picture, right? The World Trade Organization was started their operations on 1st January 1995. Membership as at 2015, 162. මම මේක ළඟදී බැලුවා. මම මේක ඉතර චේන්ජ් කරන්න ඉතර නම් දුන්නේ නැහැ. ළඟදී තිබුණේ 163 දවද. ලොකු චේන්ජ් එකක් නැහැ. The secretariat is with 625 staff members, headed by the Director General, based in Geneva. World Trade Organization is head office or the secretariat is in Geneva. The functions of World Trade Organization: administering and implementing the multilateral trade agreements. At present, 16 different multilateral trade agreements in WTO. Right? They encourage developing multilateral, not bilateral. Forum for multilateral trade negotiations. They create a forum for the multilateral trade negotiations. Then the dispute settlement. Overseeing national trade policy. මේක ගාව පොඩ්ඩක් නැවතුමු අපි. කියන්න බලන්න. ඔයාලට මොනවද? I need your thoughts. Overseeing national trade policy. What do you think about it? Just open up your mind. මොනවද කියන්නේ? ඔළුවට එන එක. මෙතෙන්දී මොනවද වෙන්නේ? අපේ රටවල් වල ඉන්ඩිපෙන්ඩන්ස් එකට මොනවද වෙන්නේ? In Sri Lanka, we are boasting we have a trade policy. අවුරුදු පහෙන් පහට අපි හදනවා trade policy. මේ trade policy කාගේවද මේ? අපිට ඕන trade policy එකක් අපිට ඕන විදිහට හදාගන්න පුළුවන්ද? බෑ. ඒ ඔක්කොම trade policies has to be set by WTO. See how these people are spreading their tentacles on developing and underdeveloped countries in the world. Now, who are the people who are managing these organizations? Was so-called capitalist countries, right? ඊට පස්සේ මේ අපේම ලංකාවේ trade policy එක අපි කිව්වට trade policy එක ඔරෙන් sanction වෙලා අපේ ගාව තමයි තියෙන්නේ. අපිට ඕන විදිහට කිසි දෙයක් කරගන්න බෑ. right? Make a trade WTO එක අදාළ නැහැ. The same thing happens to our education policies also. Everything education policy ගන්න වෙනකන් IMF එකේ හැටියට තමයි ඒක හැදෙන්නේ. right? ඔයගේ national policies they supervise, they monitor. Technical assistance and training for developing countries. Cooperation with IMF and World Bank. Earlier, GATT was not dealing directly with IMF and World Bank. But WTO, World Trade Organization, they are working hand in hand with IMF and World Bank. Right? Right. WTO basic principles: trade without discrimination. Trade without discrimination. මේව පුතා ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ වශාන් එහෙම වන්දනා මේ ගොඩක් හොඳ ආන්සර් කරනවා මට හරි ආසයි මොකද like me you are looks like you are reading a lot and you are watching the current situations. That's very important, right? You have to update yourself always as a banker. Not only things limited to the bank outside the world, but there are certain අනවශ්‍ය දේවල් නෙමෙයි which are related indirectly or directly indirectly related to the trade and banking operations, right? Trade without discrimination. I don't know whether this is happening, right? This is up to you to critically analyze it, right? At least when you know this, you can see some examples whether it's happening. Predictable and growing access to market and undistorted fair competition and transparency, right? So those are the WTO basic principles. Then we move to IMF and World Bank, the other ones. Now, IMF and World Bank, more than the trade, they were basically focusing on the foreign exchange values of the countries or countries' reserves. So initially, the gold standards was in 1945-46, that era, the currency values were fixed in terms of a quantity of gold. We call it gold standard, right? How much of gold a country is having. So based on that, they fix the value of the currency. So dollars, how much? What is your gold reserve? Sterling, how much? What is your gold reserve? Right? Indian rupees, how much? Based on their gold reserves. So they have to, a country has to keep their gold reserves separately. So based on their strength only, the currency rates were determined, right? So then, after the Second World War, again the countries met at Bretton Woods, right? Bretton Woods is it's a city in New Hampshire province in America, right? So about 15 to 20 countries, they met, the powerful countries, and they discussed to set up a financial institution to look after this world trade, not only the trade operations, the world economy, right? And that is how this IMF was introduced, International Monetary Fund, right? International Monetary Fund was formed in 1945 and commenced operation in March 1947. And the World Bank, we call it IBRD. IBRD was started in 1946 and began their operations in 1946 June. Right? They were the outcome of international conference of 44 nations, not 15, 20, 44 nations, held at Bretton Woods in July 1944 to plan the post-war monetary systems. The post-war monetary systems were planned by these 44 nations, right, at the conference at Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods system and because of that, this IMF was formed, right? In that is on 27 December 1945. IMF headquarters, right, Washington DC, USA. Washington DC, USA. Membership is founding members were 29 countries, and now we are having 188 countries as a date, right? 188 countries as members in International Monetary Fund. The benefits of IMF to the monetary systems in the world: IMF promotes international monetary cooperation and exchange rate stability. They are mainly focusing on exchange rate stability, right? Earlier, IMF fixed the exchange rates based on the gold reserves, gold standards. And then in 1973, then the what do you call this? America's president was Nixon, Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, during Richard Nixon's time, he announced, we are going to quit from gold standards. We don't want to keep gold, and we are going to quit from the gold standard. And let the US dollars exchange rate decided by the demand and supply to the currency. Right? So we call it, in 1973, we call it Nixon shock. Nixon shock කියලා කියන්නේ ඒකට තමයි කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම shock එකක් වගේ. ලෝකෙටම එකපාරට Nixon shock එක දුන්නා. Right? ළඟදී මේ අපේ සෙන්ට්‍රල් බැංක් එකටත් කවුද එක්කෙනෙක් කිව්වා මොන shock එකක්ද කියලා. ලක්ෂ්මන් ශබ්ද කොහෙද ඔන්න මොකක්ද දෙයක් කිව්වා. එයා අපේ politicians ලගේ මේවා. අරක Nixon shock. Right? So Nixon is the one who started in 1973 this floating exchange rate system. That was a floating exchange rate. not a fixed one. Based on the demand and supply to the currency, it will get changed every day. Right? They facilitate the balanced growth of international trade. Right? Provide resources to help members in balance of payment difficulties. Right? Balance of payment difficulties. We are going behind IMF. Again, recently also we received one payment from IMF recently. Again, right? It should have best taken, right? To assist member countries to achieve macroeconomic stability and reduce poverty. Those are the benefits of IMF. Now, criticism on IMF, this is very important. Now, even though these people are trying to support the other nations, IMF, there are certain criticism on IMF. They say for being out of touch with local economic conditions, cultures, and environment in the countries they are requiring policy reforms. Just imagine, right? This is a very interesting point. IMF, they are out of touch with local economic conditions. Now in Sri Lanka, we have free education. We have free health service, right? Concession rate transport systems. Free education, free health, they don't care. That is our culture, right? Now, they don't care. They said, no, you should not give free education to the students, children. You should charge. Then the university guys will come on the streets, right? Health sector, they introduced certain things. They said, okay, we will give you facilities to you. We'll give you a loan, right? But you have to put these restrictions. Work in the budget soldi, national budget people think that the government is imposing the things. No, because government doesn't have money. They are begging, and these are the conditions these people put forward, right? And they wanted to do some policy reforms and all those things. Another criticism is that IMF programs are only designed to address poor governance, excessive government spending, and excessive government intervention in the market. That is what they want to curtail. They don't want the government intervention in the market. They will, what they are preaching is, okay, let the private sector also come, and it's a competition. Right? Lanka here at all the balance right? So those are criticisms on IMF. In the World Bank. The World Bank is an international financial institution that provides loans to developing countries for capital programs. Now, IMF give loans to the monetary system, economic development of the country. But World Bank, they are the people who give loans to developing countries for capital programs. And the other thing, the IMF is for all the member countries. But World Bank is mainly focusing on developing countries, right? The World Bank comprises two institutions. One is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD. IBRD is World Bank International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. That is the main World Bank. right? World Bank අපි කියන්නේ IBRD එකට ඇත්තටම. And the International Development Association, IDA. So they have two institutions, IBRD and IDA, right? This was established in July 1944, and membership initially, as of today, the membership is 188 countries under IBRD members and IDA members 172 countries, right? When you talk about the history of the World Bank, 1944 to 1968, reconstruction and development loans provided by the World Bank were relatively small. A small amount of loans were provided. Between 1968 to 1980, the size and the number of loans were greatly increased. Right? Initially, it was very low profile, then they increased it. 1980 to 89, the bank emphasized lending to service third world debts. Right? ණය වලට ගනුදෙන්න දුන්නා. 89 to present, the bank started lending to environmental groups and NGOs, which prompted criticism. From 1989 up to now, they are now focusing on and they are lending to environmental groups and NGOs, which prompted criticism. This is one of the main criticism against the World Bank. This lending to NGOs, giving loans to NGOs without discriminating anybody. You people should think about during the 30 years war we had. What was the that was a major role was played by NGOs, especially in North and East. They were getting funds from World Bank. They were getting funds from World Bank for development work in North and East. And those money were siphoned to the terrorist activities. This was a criticism we are having, right? Even the other third world countries in Africa, Eritrea, Uganda, a lot of underdeveloped countries, Ethiopia, we are having this issue. So-called NGOs formed, and the World Bank is funding those NGOs, and those money will be siphoned to some other terrorist activities, even those countries, right? Not that World Bank is financing the terrorist activities, but because of this wrong focus, this was what happening, right? The NGOs වලට සල්ලි හම්බුනාම ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් බලෙන් හරි ගන්නවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඕක අපිට ලොකුට බලපෑවා. I can remember in 2007 I joined NDB Bank as a consultant to set up a department for them and a team that was FIU unit, Financial Intelligence Unit. I set up the department and recruited staff, and we did the investigations, right? There I have come across with the new FIU regulations and the terrorist financing and everything we have to check, and NGOs NGOs, when it comes to NGOs, those NGOs were NGOs has to be registered with the national authority of non-governmental organizations. At that time, it was headed by 2009, 8, 9, that was headed by Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa as the he was the secretary to the Defense Ministry, secretary to the Defense Ministry, right? So under him, he did a fantastic job to curtail this one. And a lot of accounts were closed down because we have to close down because they were not prepared to register with the national organizations, national authorities, right? Some were having millions and millions. They gave a අතුරු ප්‍රතිඵල. IMF and World Bank, if you have a comparison, purpose, IMF purpose is monetary institution, IBRD development institution, right? Then activities, stabilizing international monetary system, financing of temporary balance of payment deficits, IBRD promoting economic growth and development in developing countries. Right? Source of funds, eligible borrowers, IMF, all members. I told you, IBRD, developing countries only developing countries. And majority of the IMF loans are short term, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But IBRD are long term. Sometimes it goes back to, they will lend 10 years, 15 years, even up to 20 years. 15 to 20 years is normal credit horizon, right? Sometimes it can go up to 50 years. African countries, infrastructure loans, it goes up to 50 years. The other one, another organization is International Finance Corporation. International Finance Corporation, IFC. IFC is affiliated to the World Bank, IBRD. It was established in 1956. This is the financing arm for private sector. Financing arm for private sector. Now, IFC is financing, they are promote private capital flows to developing countries, right? Something. Class ini something kan? Agenda. Okay. To promote private capital flows to developing countries, right? Invest directly in private companies. Provides loans or guarantees to private investors, and IFC borrows from IBRD. IFC හිතන්නේ මෙතන ඉන්න banks ගොඩක් අය IFC loans අරන් තියෙනවා. ගොඩක් banks. Spanish මම හිතන්නේ මම දන්නේ නැති ඇති නමුත් IFC loans අරන් තියෙනවා. ඔක්කොම private sector. ඒගොල්ලෝ bank of Sun වගේ ඒකට නෙමෙයි වැඩි වෙන්නේ දැන්. Private sector organizations වලට. Do you know the new bank, Cargill's Bank? When Cargill's Bank was set up, I was there from the inception. On the day one, I was there. And you know, IFC guys came, and at that time we had only 6 or 7 people. I was heading the trade. There was another person heading the credit. And මේ වගේ අපි කීප දෙනෙක් තමයි හිටියේ ඔක්කොම veterans. So they had interviews with us, and they checked our profile, our background, and everything. අපි ඔක්කොම pedigree එක බලලා I said, okay, we are ready to be a partner of Cargill's Bank. They said, okay, we'll put 10%. We'll put 10% shares. When IFC put 10% shares, when they bought 10% shares of Cargill's Bank, that was a time we were trying to set up the bank. They said, we are prepared. And 10% shares එකම ගත්තා. ගත්ත ගමන් මොකද උනේ? Everybody wanted to buy shares of Cargill's. The business market, they know when IFC buys, they have done the full feasibility study. The core feasibility study එකල තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ මේක ගන්න කියලා. And they have confidence. Then everybody was fighting. The central bank, I can still remember, central bank came and central bank said, we also need 10%. By that time, entire share capital was closed. Now, central bank is insisting their EPF again. They said, we want 10% shares to our EPF. We are prepared to invest there. Because that IFC was there. And කොහෙන්ද දෙන්නේ? Then at a board meeting, we discussed that. IFC said, fine. In that case, we will withdraw. You give it to central bank. EPF එකට දෙන්න. EPF එකට දෙන්නේ කියලා they withdrew. And EPF took 10%. Then after that, IFC invested money on Cargill's Food City. They are investing on private sector, right? They did a wise thing. Even I have invested quite a lot from 2012 or 13. None of us have got us sent as the dividends. Still, the bank cannot break even or make it. IFC ඉදින්න EPF එක කරවනවා. Right? අන්න වගේ තමයි IFC එක ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ. මේවා ඉදිය කතා කරන්න එපා. මොකක්ද මේ IFC එක කොහොමද ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්න කියන එක. I saw recently they invested money in Panisha කළා NTB මම දැක්කා NDB එකේ මොකක් හරි එකක් ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක IFC කළා. So they come and do the feasibility, and so it's a boost to the country and boost to the private sector also, right?
So excuse me,
Yeah.
why at that time intermediate the central bank for that investment?
You mean EPF?
Yeah, why EPF intermediate to that against international development association?
Yeah, EPF. How many EPF have invested in how many companies? All lost there. අපේ EPF එකට හිර වෙලා තියෙන ඒකනේ. EPF එකට සල්ලි නැහැ කියලා කියන්නේ ඒකනේ. Our money, your money, my money, that is in EPF, right? This is how they are investing. They are invested in all the wrong places. And when central bank wants, we have to give. There's no arguments. They are the monetary authority. ඊට පස්සේ නැත්නම් approval එකවත් හම්බෙන්නේ අපිට ලයිසන් එකවත් හම්බෙන්නේ right එතනින්ද අපිට දෙන්න ඕන එතෙන්දී IFC has taken a calculated risk. That's a normal thing. EPF කොච්චර මේ පෞද්ගලික දවස්වල කොච්චර තුනද මේ EPF එක loss එකක් වෙන්න හේතුවක් වෙන්නේ නැත්තම් මේ අපිට 9%
Excuse me, sir. I wanted to know whether the central bank involved in this investment as a monetary control measure, monetary system control measure.
No. Central bank is not involving. Central bank is not involving. But EPF, when I was doing the central bank, I mentioned their agency arrangements. They are the agents for EPF. EPF is a completely different body. Employees fund එක employees provident fund එක EPF එක ඒක වෙනම body එකක්. That body is governed by or monitored by central bank, but they act as an independent organization. They have, I think, එනකොට එන්නේ independent organization එකේ ඉන්නේ assistant directors ලා ඒ වගේ කට්ටිය ඉන්නේ තාමත් EPF එකේ officers තියෙන under central bank supervision ඔක්කොම යන්නේ. ඒකට indirect involvement එකක් එනවා. There's a pressure, indirect pressure, right? We have to think twice before we say no. Just imagine how many organizations they have invested billions, and without getting any.
Who takes the investment decisions?
Huh?
Who takes the investment decisions? The governor or the EPF? They have a director for that.
That is, I'm not in a position to answer that question. There is central bank decisions, whether the EPF board or any monetary board is taking the decisions, or EPF. I don't know whether they are having a separate board. So those are out of my focus, and I'm completely out of touch on that. I can't tell you anything offhand, right? Who takes the decision? So whatever the decisions taken by the governor, also there are $5 billion lost to the country. But I'm talking about these things, right? Okay, right. We'll come back to the organizations. Other one is IDA. I told you IBRD and IDA, right? IDA is also affiliated to IBRD. This was established in 1960. IFC was established in 1956. IDA, International Development Association, they are specialized in loans to most needy countries at low or zero interest rates for longer terms, sometimes for 50 years. Right? Provide funding for infrastructure projects such as transportation and energy supplies, which do not make short-term commercial returns but are vital for development. Okay. African countries with IDA loans, zero interest or very low, 0.5%, 0.25%, very low. Then another financial institution which we have to learn is Bank for International Settlement, BIS, Bank for International Settlement. Now, central bank is our banker's bank is central bank. Now, central bank is Bank for International Settlement, BIS. You got it? Now, central bank is our commercial bank. Now, all the central bankers in the world, central bank is Bank for International Settlement. This was established in 1930, right? Originally to coordinate payment of German war reparations among European central banks. Very important thing now I'm going to mention is the headquarters in Basel, Switzerland. Basel, Switzerland. Did it ring any bell to you? Basel, Switzerland, Basel.
Capital adequacy.
Huh?
Basel 1, 2, 3.
Capital adequacy.
Yes, capital adequacy, the Basel Accord on capital adequacy of the banks. Now, this was introduced by BIS. Since their headquarters is in Basel, Basel Accord. But they are the people who will give instructions to the local central banks. Okay, you do it before this, timetable. Right? And egoda tamai api yanne. Then headquarters in Basel, Switzerland. Basel එක මම කතා කරනවාම now we are having Basel 2 at the moment, right? But in most countries, this Basel has already completed, and they have given us the time period, if I'm correct, 2016 or 16 or 17 to complete all three stages, right? But still, I think we are in stage 2, right? And internationally coordinates monetary policy to ensure orderly conditions in the international financial market, managed by 20 board members representing G20 countries. See how powerful the G20 countries. So they are the people who are managing the international Bank for International Settlements, right? Okay. In 1988, the minimum capital adequacy standard for banks, Basel Accord, was introduced, right? Then increasing confidence in the international banking system, capital adequacy system to increase the confidence in the international banking system. So a lot of banks started collapsing because of the lack of capital adequacy. So because of that, the increasing confidence in the international banking system, setting common competitive conditions for international banks, a level playing field. In 1985, new prudential standards were introduced to constrain the market risk. That is Basel 2. Basel 2. Right? In 1999, revised and refined yardsticks for assessment of banks, lending and liquidity risk, Basel 3. When I was working for HSBC Dubai, even somewhere in 2000, වෙනකොට අපි Basel 2 එක භාගයට ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කරලා තියුණා. ඒතකොට ලංකාවේ Basel 1 එක ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කරන්න ගන්නවා. තාම capital adequacy එක දැන් there were a lot of discussions to to merge certain banks, and they gave enough time for them to find their own capital, right? The minimum capital. And so because of that, some of the investors came to some banks like Union Bank. One Saudi guy came, Saudi prince. He invested a lot of money, right? Like that. Okay. Another institution which we have to have some awareness is Asian Development Bank, ADB. ADB is a very popular one among us, right? This was established in 1966. The headquarters in Manila, Philippines. Headquarters in Manila, Philippines. ADB has 67 members. Makes loans and equity investment for economic and social development of member countries. අපිට ගොඩක් එන්නේ මේ ADB loans තමයි, right? Largest shareholders are Japan, US, Australia, and New Zealand. Lending activity focus on energy projects, transportation, agriculture, and industry. Most of our energy projects, small scale power supply, the name of hydropower units, then wind electricity, windmills, windmills. To promote to get the electricity.
Solar power.
Solar power units. Solar power loans, දෙනවා. මේ ළඟදී දුන්නා නේද මේ බැංක්ස් වලට? මදනේ NDB එක banks, NDB එක banks වලින් දෙනවා 6.5
Refinance scheme.
refinance loans, and it is refinanced by the ADB backed loans. So to encourage people to go for alternate energy projects, right? To promote that. So actually, ADB is very close to us, and especially in agriculture sector, Mahilu Pallama and all those things, and then the irrigation systems, they help quite a lot to the Asian countries. And Asian governments are the biggest borrowers. Right. I think that we have covered quite a lot of organizations. We talk about ADB, then BIS, Bank for International Settlement, Bank, and important ones are World Bank, that's IBRD and IDC, and IFC, and IMF. Then we talk about the WTO and how WTO was born from GATT, right? That was the international monetary organizations which are supporting to international trade operations, right? Even if you now you must be thinking IDA loans to underdeveloped countries or developing countries, right? How it is affecting the international trade. When you invest money on infrastructure development and all those things, obviously there will be imports, right? So we have to import the raw materials and machinery. Everything we do is revolving around international trade operations, right? Okay, I think I managed to cover it quicker than I thought. Shall we do one or two questions also on they call this forex guarantee කරමුද අපි උගන්ට එතන මට forex ටික ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන්. The last time we did was this one. Can you see the assignment? Assignment, can you see the assignment?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Okay. What is there to discuss? ළමයෙක් විතරක් අහලා දුන්න ප්‍රශ්නයක්. Each section 350 words කියලා. අනේ ලියන්න එපා එච්චර. මම කොහේ බලන්නද? Right? That is assignment number 1, between 350 to 450 words. The entire assignment. The second one, 350 to 450 words. Right? Excluding annexes and list of reference. And number 4 is very important. List of reference and the in-text referencing is a must. In-text referencing is if you are taking any, if you are quoting anything, or if you are taking any thing from the books or internet on certain articles. So those things you have to give the reference, right? But you can actually, what I want is for you to read and study. Then you have to read and you have to get more details. Just mention these are the, for example, if you say international trade, Mr. Davidson, international trade by Davidson, page 189, something like that. If you get something after referring to those books, right? ඒ වගේ මොනවාරි ඒ ටික විතරක් දාන්න. Then okay, assignment 1 are lazy. Assignment දෙකක් මම දීලා තියෙනවා. Managing Director of Pgedbm Limited, a new customer of your bank, as මම උත්තරේ දෙන්නම. එහෙම ඒක දෝනයි කිව්වේ. උත්තරේ කියන්නේ කියලාද කියන්නේ?
එපා සර්.
එහෙනම් මට සිතන එක තමයි මේක කියන්නේ. මට මේක කියන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. මේක කියන්න ගිය ගමන් උත්තරෙත් යනවා. Right, okay, come on. Managing Director of Pgedbm Limited, a new customer of your bank, has approached you and requested you to establish this is a case study. Import letter of credit to purchase electronic items from China. Right? These items are to be re-exported to Kenya, and he has already received the export letter of credit, which has been advised by your bank. So you want to import from purchase electronic items from China and to re-export to Kenya. For that second one also you have got a export letter of credit. Your customer is willing to lodge the export letter of credit with you as security for the import letter of credit. What sort of a LC they are talking about? In the export security, export LC as a security for the,
Back to back.
back to back. Yeah. So they are coming and asking for back to back. I told you the back to back banks are very, very reluctant, but that is not a good security. Right? However, when you go through the export letter of credit, you find that rather than issuing back to back, you can directly transfer the export letter of credit to China. Right? Right. Then it is a different thing. They go to the right? Basically, killing or explain the detailed procedures applicable to transferable credits to your customer. Now, they are asking you, so you are giving the advice. So you have to explain the whole thing to your customer. Then එහෙම customer කෙනෙක්ට කියනවා නම් මොකද්ද අපි කරන්න ඕනේ? මම ඕගලන්ට කියනවා වගේ ඕගොල්ලෝ customer ට ගන්නන්න ඕන. Right? Flow charts ඇඳලා ඔක්කොම කරලා කියනවා මෙන්න මෙහෙමයි වෙන්නේ කියලා නේ. The entire procedures. Right? Then according to Article 38G, what are the permissible alterations? පුරාණ කරන්න ලේසිනේ. Compare back-to-back rates against transferable rate. Right? ඒක ලොකු දෙයක් නෑ. Second case study. Toys R Us Limited, who is a customer of your bank, has been manufacturing and distributing soft toys to the local market. Recently, they participated in a trade fair in Colombo organized by the Sri Lanka Export. මගේ ටයිප් එරර් එකක් තියෙනවා. මොකක්ද අහුණාද? මට දැන් අහුණා.
Export Development Board.
Development Board, Department Board නෙමෙයි. Development Board. මටත් ලැජ්ජයි. Export Development Board. They have received a good response from large number of buyers from Europe and are considering whether to enter into export market. Right? Briefly describe the factors that Toys R Us Limited should consider before entering into export market. A new customer wants to enter into the export market. What are the factors they have to consider? What are the factors they have to consider? You can read. You can find the points from Google. Kela ලස්සනට answer එකක් හදාගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? හැබැයි දැන් මේ 6 marks තියෙන එකට ඔකට මේ පොතක් ලියන්න එපා. 2 pages විතර ආවනම් ඕන තරම් ඔයට ඇති. Right? ඕන්ට වඩා ගිහලා පොත් ගණන් ලියන්න නෑ. හැබැයි to the point. To the point. Right? Then they are talking about, now this guy, I think I have discussed this case study with you when I was doing the on-the-spot trade. Right? Mitring yara kadalo tiding. Uttaret mamma dunna ivare. Okay, any questions?
So then මේකටත් මේ වචන number of words 350 ඒ වගේ ලියන්න ඕනද sir 3 marks උනත්?
ඔන්න උතන තමයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ වරද්ද ගත්තේ. මේ මම කියලා නෑ නේද මේ each section 350 words කියලා. Entire assignment 350 to 450 words. What do you mean by on-the-spot trade? 350 words. You will be a genius. Maybe genius guy. Right? I have mentioned lamai godak ahana තිබුණා. ගොඩක් නෙමෙයි කියලා දෙන්නේ කාලා දුන්නේ. Each answer should be between 350 to 450 words. Each answer again, assignment number 1 answer. So assignment number 1, how many parts are there? A, B, C. So to name a total 450 words in it. Right? Now compare back to back against transferable credit can not even 100 words. Not even 100 words. 50-60 විතර වෙයි. Right? මේ අනිත් එකේ B එකෙත් මුකුත් නැහැ. B එකේ reasons දෙන්න ගියාම 100 words එකක් එන්නේ නැහැ. මේකට යන්න වැඩියෙන් ලියන්න වෙන්නේ first එකට. ඒකට. When you add up all three, it should be 350 to 450 words. Very small one. You got the point, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
ලියන්නද ගියේ පුතේ මේ 350 අනේ ලියන්න
Sir,
නැහැ මම
we
බලන්නකො.
write the answer piece of paper or Word document.
Paper or Word document කියන Word document එක අරගත්තොත් ඔක එතන පොඩි මේ ඉෂුව එකක් තියෙනවා. ඔයගලන්ට කොහොමද මේ කුරියර් කරලා එවන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඉවරයි නේ. අපි ගිය පාර කරෙත් එහෙමයි. ගිය පාරත් ඒ ළමයි ඔක්කොම කළේ එකයි. කොළඹ ඉන්න කට්ටිය නම් ඩක් ගාලා මේ ඔගේ පැනීෂියා රොෂාන්ගේ යාළු රෝඩ් එක ඔක්කොම එකිනෙක අපොයින්ට් කරගන්න රොෂාන්ව ලීඩ් හැටියට කරලා ඔක්කොම මේව ටික එකිනෙකට දෙන්න එකිනෙක කියලා IBSL එකට දීලා යන්න. කොහොමත් පළවෙනි දන ගන්න මේක දෙන්න බෑනේ එන්නත් එපා. IBSL එකට දෙන්න ඉන්නේ විදිහට හේත් කවුරුකත් නැහැ. Obviously 30th කිව්වට දැන් ඔක තව පොඩ්ඩක් එහාට වෙයි දවස් දෙකක්. Right? හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලෑස්ති කරලා තියාගන්න. First available thing when they start the we are meeting in the classes now, then I will announce you. Now you can go and hand it over. Right? If you are from Anuradhapura or Jaffna, there's another way of doing it. Right? All our bankers now. Either you can send it to your head office or by bank interbank අපේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ බැංකුවේ කුරිය එකේ වන්න පුළුවන්. එතන කවුරු යාළුවෙක් ටික ගන්න පුළුවන් hand over කරන්න කියලා. එහෙම නැත්නම් you can give to a courier company. Courier company එකෙන් ගිහලා මේ document එක දෙන්න රුපියල් 100ක් 150ක් ගන්නේ. ඊට වඩා ගන්න නැහැ.
assignment එක upload කරන්න බැයිද sir? අපිට කරලා ඉවරලා upload කරන්න
upload කරලා අපි කොහොමද print outs ගන්නෙ? මට බලන්න බෑනේ. මට මේව correct කරගන්න බෑනේ. මට online correct කරන්න බෙදියක් නැහැ නේ. මේක බල කඩ මේක කරන්න. ඔක මේ
Kalinga can get the printout.
Huh?
Kalinga can get the printout.
Of 140? Bullshit. අපි ඔය කතා කරලා කාලිංගයමයි. කාලිංගට 140 print outs අරගන්න ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ පොත් පිටින් මේ වෙන වැඩක් නෑ නේද පුතේ. ඒ වැඩේ නම් කරන්න බැරි වෙනවා. අපි ඒක කිව්වේ ඒක කාලිංගත් කිව්වේ. ඒ වැඩේ නම් කරන්න බෑ. මේ දෙන්නේ තුන්දෙනෙක් නෙමෙයිනේ. 138 or 140 people. Right? So these people will not agree to that IBSL. Right? You can send it. You can send it. You can find a way. You can arrange with Kalinga if you have any issues of sending it. Those ඒවා අපි කාලින්ගත් එක්ක arrange කරගන්න කොහොමද අපි දෙන්නේ කියන එක. අරක නම් කරන්න බෑ. Just imagine.
Sir deadline එක 30ද sir?
ඔව් 30 තමයි deadline තිබුණේ. දැන් නම් ඉතින් 30ට කරන්න බෑ නේද? දැන් උගන්ට hand over කරන්නවත් විදියක් නැහැ නේ.
So can you extend the deadline?
I don't want to extend. Let the deadline be 30th. Well, you people are like small ones, right? Don't ask for any excuses. You are matured people. 2 weeks is the maximum. I have given you 16 or 17 days. On top of that, the government might give you another additional 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month. That is beyond my control. Enough, no? Right? But why I am telling you 30th, this will go on till 1st, right? First, which we don't know whether IBS will be open or not. The methana October 2nd, October 3rd we are meeting, and October 3rd now IBS is open. Now you can come and hand it over. Till October 3rd, we can't give you any assurance, right? So that means these are not questions. These are common sense. The government has given you the extension till 3rd, right? If you know Shavendra Silva, tell him he will extend it till 10th. Not me, yeah? Make a young lady 10th කවද්ද දන්නේ අපි exam එකක් තියන්නත් විදියක් නැහැ නේ අපිට. We have to wait till the country opens. Then only you can send. එතකන් බෑ පුතේ. හැබැයි එතකන් ඒක මං කියන්නේ deadline එකට ඉවර කරන්න. If you finish on the deadline 10th වලට 30th වලට ඉවර කරගත්තොත් then you are ready. The packet is with you. Answer is with you. Any given moment, first available moment, you can deliver it. But anyway, not before 3rd. So we have given you time till, not me, the government has given you time till 3rd. It කලින් කොහොමද දෙන්නම බෑ. Individual නෑනේ. Unless otherwise, you අර ඔයගොල්ලෝ කියනවා වගේ කාලින්ගට එවන්න. Kalinga is not working there. Entire IBSL is closed. Nobody is working there. Right? There are practical issues. So you have to adjust yourselves according to the practical issues. You are talking about one person. One person spending 100 rupees or 150 rupees. And for Kalinga to take printouts of UP, definitely මේ වගේ එකක් හදලා ඉවර කරන්න යනවා. print කරලා සමහර පොත් හදලා ඔක්කොම කරලා ඉවර වෙනකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ කරනවානේ. බර කාල මේ අඩු ගානේ pages 10ක් 15ක් සමහර අය යනවා. මම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි pages 10ක් 15ක් මිනිස්සු යනවා. ඒව ඔක්කොම print කරලා කාලින්ග පොත් හදන්නද? මේ පාර ඔයගලන්ටත් බැරිවි පොත් හදාගන්න. ඒ communications වහලානේ. All communications are closed.
All
right?
communication is
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah. ඉතින් එතකොට අර මේවා කරලා ඉතින් හදන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි. ඉතින් මං ඒකට මේ පොත් හැදුවයි කියලා ලකුණු දෙන්නේ නැහැ. මට ඕනේ උත්තරේ විතරයි. සමහර ළමයි ඉන්නවා මේ අතින් ලියලෙවනවා. අතින් ලියලෙවුවොත් I don't mind. හැබැයි මට කියවන්න ඕන. මම assignment එක මම word by word කියවනවා. ඒකයි මම කිව්වේ මට physical ඕන. I have to mark. Right? ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ assignments mark කරලා ඉවර වෙනකොට ඒවා තොරන් වගේ. පොත් පෑනේ රවුම් ඇදලා කතර ගහලා රමය කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපි ඒ විදිහට අතින් ලිව්වත් තමයි නෑ සමහර අයගේ hand writing හොඳයි. ලස්සනට කරනවා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ එහෙම සමහරලාට මේ අපි අර print outs යන්තම් මේ මොනද flow charts අතින් ඇඳලා පාට කරලා ලස්සනට ගන්නත් පුළුවන්. තවත් හොඳට. ඉතින් ගෙදර ඉඳන් ටික ටික කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. එකම දේ අර මේ computer එක වලත් ලේසි. You can change it, you can erase it, you can cut paste ඔක්කොම තියෙනවානේ. මේකෙන්ද computer එක කරලා the first available situation, take a printout. If you have a print at home, yes, you can do. එහෙම නැත්නම් pen එක දාගෙන ගිහිල්ලා communication එකකින් ඒක කරන්න තුන්වෙනිද පහුවෙන්න ඕන. So you are asking all unwanted questions. Mama illa me ara Hitler වගේ මිනිහෙක් නෙමෙයි. මට තේරෙනවා හොඳටම. හොඳටම I can understand your situations. But that doesn't mean you can take time till 30th October. 30th October also a possible thing. If the entire October is also under curfew, it is possible. Everything depends on the COVID-19. What they get on a committee again. How the Amsicura Ravi Balangin, then Vidikara, the Kaladi, COVID-19 monitoring committee, the Martin, and a good at the mind than thing. Okay. Any more questions?
Sir, references books කියන්න sir ටික.
අනේ පුතේ ඒක නම් කියන්න බෑ. Then there's no point no. I had given you an assignment for you to refer and study. Right? Assignment means you have to do your own studies. Then you will learn extra points rather than what I have given. Right? සමහර ළමයි ඉන්නවා මේකට උත්තරේ මගේ නෝට් එක එහෙම්මම කට් ඇන්ඩ් පේස්ට් කරලා මේකට දානවා. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? උත්තරේ වැරදි නෑ මම දීලා තියෙන උත්තරෙත් වැරදිනේ. හැබැයි පොයින්ට්ස් හම් වෙන්නේ නෑ. right? බොරුව කරන්න මේ අහු නොවෙන්න. බොරුව කළත් ඒක අහු නොවෙන්න කරන්න. මේ කෙලින්ම මේ මගේ නෝට් එකම මේ අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා තියෙන එකම කට් ඇන්ඩ් පේස්ට් කරලා දැම්මොත් මම හරියටම මේ සම්පූර්ණ උත්තරය දෙන්නම්කෝ මේ පැය දෙකකින් ඔය ප්‍රශ්න දෙකටම මගේ නෝට්ස් ටික අපල දාලා අලවලා දැම්මම ඉවරයි නේද? පැය දෙකකින් මේ දෙකම ඉවර කරනවා 30 වෙනිදා ඉන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. Right. Any more questions? Any more questions? ඔගොල්ලෝ මමත් ආසයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ අර මේ in-text references බලන්න කොහෙන්ද ගත්ත කියන එක. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මම in-text references බලලා Google and check to see whether you are trying to take me for a ride or you have actually done the research. We need you to do a research. Right. Any more thing? Make C compare back-to-back credits against transferable trades. I have given you the comparison. So if you are going to put that straight away, හොඳ නෑ නේද? දැජ්ජය වගේනේ. ඉතින් ඒක modify කරලා තව ටිකක් හොයලා තව references කරනකොට තව හවුවේ මම දීලා තියෙන points 3 නම් ඔකට තව points 5ක් 6ක් හම්බ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. right? අනේවත් දාන්න මටත් ඉගෙන ගන්න. ඒ වගේ තමයි එන්න ඕනේ. අර මගේ එක දැම්මොත් උගන්ට මේකට එක මාර්කයක් දෙනවා මම. එච්චරයි. 1 mark. ඒක වැඩක් නෑනේ. right? B එකටත් මගේ answer එක තියෙනවා. 1 mark you will get. ඉතින් කොහොම 1 mark අරන් වැඩක් නෑනේ. ඒක නම් ටිකක් ලියන්න වෙනවා ඔයගලන්ට. අරකම ලියලා තිබුණොත් ඒත් වැඩක් නෑ. 15 marks වලින් try to get at least 10 marks. At least 10 marks. Go for the target, but go for 15 out of 15. At least you will end up with 10. 10 and 10, 20. So you have to get another 31 marks at the final exam. ගණන් දෙක කරගත්තා නම් එතන තියෙනවා 40 marks. 30 marks ගන්න ඕනේ. සමනද ඕනේ. Multiple choice questions ටික ගත්තා නම් ඒ 20 වලින් අඩුම ගානේ තවත් 10ක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. තවත් you can go for a merit or distinction pass. Right? 20 මේ දෙකට 25 out of 30 ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් you are great. මම දැන් මෙච්චර කාලෙ නම් දුන්නේ නෑ අපි මාක්ස් ෆයිනල් එකට තමයි ඇඩ් කළේ. අහලා බලන්න ඕන මේගොල්ලන්ගෙන් ඔයගලන්ට පොඩි ෆයිනල් එක්සෑම් එකේ ඉස්සලා මාක්ස් ටික දුන්නොත් එහෙම ඔයගොල්ලෝ කඩා වැටේද full strength එකක් ඒද ෆයිනල් එක ලියලා මට D එකක් ගන්න කියලා ඒද කියන එක කඩා වැටෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. ෆයිනල් එක්සෑම් එකේ ඔන්න මෙන්න කියලා තියලා මම බෝම්බයක් දැම්මොත් එහෙම නේ ඒක හොඳ නෑ මම හිතන්නේ.
No, sir, actually it will encourage us to...
It will encourage you?
Yes, because if we have less marks for the assignment, then we will be able to more studies and get at least 55 to 60.
One of the postgraduate paper, one of these years, 2016 or 17. 2016 or 17, the postgraduate students, most of them, they told me, so we are from regional, RDB and savings bank. We are not doing any trade. We don't have any trade in our banks, right? So it's very difficult to read and understand UCP, URC with the articles and all. Right? Do you like me to give you open book one? So I will allow you to keep UCP and URC with you when you're writing the final exam. අනේ සේනම් දෙයියෙක් කොහොමරි කරලා දෙන්න අරකයි මේකයි මං කෝ හරි මං කරන්න. හැබැයි මට ඕන එතකොට තනි කර ඕගලන්ගේ ඒ හැම ආන්සර් එකම ආටිකල් එක ලියන්න ඕන. අයියෝ සර් ලියන්නම් දැන් පොත තියෙනවනේ. පොත තියෙනවා නම් පොත දිග දැන් ආටිකල් එක ලියන්න තියෙන්නේ. Normally 70% pass වෙනවා මගේ final exam එකේ. ඒ පාර 58 or 60% pass rates. Bhagata Bhagya fail. Reason? They were turning the book from article 1 to 30, 39, 39 to 1. මේ හොයනවා. ලියන්න තියෙන ආටිකල් එක හොයනවා. දැන් තමයි ඉගෙන ගන්න ලියන්න යන්නේ. ආටිකල් එක හොය හිටියා. ප්‍රශ්න ටික හරියට කළෙත් නෑ. ප්‍රශ්න උත්තර ලිව්වෙත් නෑ. දීපුවත් වැරදි. මොකද කියවලා නෑ. කියවපු ළමයට කෙලින්ම ආටිකල් එක පෙරලා රග්ගලා ලියන්න විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. පාඩම් කරපු නැති යට ඒවයි. ඒ වෙච්ච එක මං කිව්වා අනේ සර් ඊට පස්සේ නම් ඕපන් බුක් දෙන්න එපා. ඕපන් බුක් දුන්නොත් දැන් මම හිතලා මට chance එකක් ගන්නත් බෑ. මම හැම තිස්සෙම හරිම ස්ට්‍රික්ට් මාක් කරනවා එතකොට. වෙන එකට මේ 1 මාක් පත් දෙනවා නම් ඒක දෙන්නෙත් නෑ. වැඩක් නෑනේ. පොත දිග අරගෙන ලියන්නත් බැන්න. රයිට් ඒකද අපි ඕපන් බුක් දෙන්නෙත් ඒකයි. රයිට් ඕකේ. මම දැන් නම් ක්ලාස් එක කරන්න කාලයක් නෑ. ඕනනම් මම පස්වෙනි ගාන අපි ඩිස්කස් කරමුද අපි?
Sir, excuse me sir, attendance වලට බලනවද attendance?
Attendance නම් බලනවා වෙනදට බලනවා. Attendance වල බලලා අපි 10 marks දෙනවා. දැන් මේ පාර කොහොමද බලන්නේ? මම දන්නේ ඇත්තටම දුව මේ පාර attendance බලන්න කොහොමද කියන එක. නේද?
ඔව් සර්.
මේ පාර අපි කොහොමද කරන්න කියන එක මම දන්නෙත් නෑ. මේකෙන් ගණන් වගේක් හැදුවා. right. බලන්න මේ පස්වෙනි ගාන ගන්න බලන්න පස්වෙනි ගාන ගන්න. Okay. My answer again, but anyway, we will discuss this question. Question number 5. Our customer, I will tell you what to do, right? So based on that, you can do it. Anybody who has done this question? Anybody who has done this question? කවුරුත් කරලා නැද්ද? කවුරුත් කරලා නැද්ද මේක? කරලා නැත්නම් කොහොමද උගලත් එක්ක කරන්නේ? Right? Anyway, our customer Silva Exports Limited, exporter buyer close AG Germany, amount and terms euro 400,000, DA terms payable 30 days from shipment date. DA terms payable 30 days from shipment date. Order to be dispatched in 2 shipments. First shipment 250,000 euro and second shipment 150,000 euro. First shipment made during 13 to 14th week. So 13 to 14 plus මොකක්ද?
2 weeks.
plus මොකක්ද දෙන්නේ? +13 to 14th week. +2 දාන්න ඕනද? Can quickly. +13 to 14th week plus the first export.
4.
It takes further 2 weeks for the shipping documents to be received and the bill of exchange to be accepted. Right? What is the amount and term? Euro 400,000. Term is DA terms payable 30 days from shipment date. Payable 30 days from shipment date. Right? හොඳට ඔලුවට ගන්න. දැන් මට කියන්න first shipment එකේ time period එක කීයද? කොහොමද ළමයි?
19-18 weeks.
Huh?
17-18.
19-20.
19, 20, 17, 18. කොහොමද දෙන්නේ?
It is 1920. 5 month, 1 month of 4 month fixed and 1 month option.
I'm talking on the first shipment. First shipment. Kiyada.
There is a payable for 13 days, no, sir. DA terms.
Right.
13 to 14 plus 2 weeks plus another 4 weeks, total 20. That's divided by 4.
Why 13 to 14 plus 4 weeks plus another
2.
Why 2?
Processing time.
Those 2 weeks are already in that 4 weeks time, sir. Therefore, we
There
need
you
to
are. There you are. Only one trainee girl. That 2 weeks is already included in the 1 month, because it says payable 30 days from shipment date. Shipment date. Right? Shipment date එක 13 14 week of the shipment date එකෙන් තවත් අපිට දෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. Now 2 weeks in there. The 2 weeks is already included in the 30 days. That is 4 weeks. Then it will be 13th to 14 plus 4 weeks. That is 17th and 18th week. Right? 17th and 18th week. Second shipment.
be 21, 22 weeks.
21 and 22 weeks. Well, the first එක වෙනවා fourth month එකේ ඉන්නේ නැහැ. Fourth month එකේ. ඒකට 3 weeks නැහැ. 3 weeks. 4 weeks first one 4 weeks fixed. Sorry, 4 months fixed. 4 months fixed.
1 month
option.
1 month
Second
option.
month,
5 months fixed, 1 month option.
1 month option. Right? දැක්කද ඔයගොල්ලෝ අහුවෙච්ච තැන. ඒකට අහුණා නම් එක ලකුණක්වත් නෑ. එක්සෑම් එක කරලා එන්නේ දුන්නා සර් කීප විදිහට පැලෙන්න දුන්නා කියලා. අන බලාගෙන පැත්තකට. Right? Okay. In order to manufacture the product, Silva Export Limited will have to import raw materials to the value of 300,000 from supplier Tang PLC. Payment for raw materials to be made under Usance DC payable 30 days from the shipment date. 30 days from the shipment date. Right? Again, shipment will be made 6 weeks after the document to be received Sri Lanka during second week from the shipment. ඒකත් වැඩක් නෑනේ. අපි ගන්නේ 6 weeks 30 days from shipment date payable. Right? එතකොට අර දාලා තියෙන 2 weeks අපි ගන්නේ නෑ. Right? ඒක අහුවෙන්නේ නෑ. Right? Okay. It takes 2 months for manufacturing the goods. Right. Right. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ට ගාන කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right. Rates ටික තියෙනවා. මේකේ කොහමද එන්නේ? ඩොලර් එක premium or discount? Dollar
Premium.
All premium. Euro US dollars.
But in the 5th month, it was discounted.
First month, Euro US dollars first month.
It is premium.
Second month.
Same up to, same up to 4th
Yeah.
month.
Same up to 4th month. And 5th month. Fifth month to the 5th month එක premium නේ. What the discount ලා තියෙන්නේ?
Sorry, it's premium.
It's premium. වරද්ද ගන්න බබද ඔන්න ඔය තමයි නේද? අනේ අපරාධ ඒගොල්ලෝ හොඳට දන්නවා දැනගෙන වරද්ද ගන්නවා. Right? ඔක්කොම premium. Right? Then the cancellation during which period? 13th March, 13th April, 13th May, 13th June, 13th July, 13th August, 13th September. 13th September කියන්නේ
Option.
6 month එක. 3rd September කියන්නේ 6 month. 6 month is
Option.
period. Ne? If it is option period, then it is the
spot trade.
Spot selling. Right. Okay, fine. Right. අපි එනම් ඔය ටික කරන්න කරලා අපි අයිත් දවසක අපි ඉතුරු ටිකත් කරමු. Right. Okay. We'll call it a day මොකද මට දැන් ඊගාව ක්ලාස් එක පටන් ගන්න දෙනවා 1 o'clock. Right. ඊට පස්සේ අදට අපි නවතුමු. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks.